Okay, this is your super typhoon Nanmando, I think is what you call it, but it's a super typhoon. It is sitting over the Philippines. Hopefully the people in the Philippines did take shelter and are ready. Get ready if you live in Taiwan. I'm putting out an alert and a warning for Taiwan. This thing is going to be headed pretty much straight to you, and then it's going to start to veer off. The eye will probably stay right on the coastline of Taiwan here, and then it's going to be heading up to Japan. So if you live in Taiwan, or if you live in Okinawa or Japan, get ready. You have a super typhoon headed your way right now, and I'm not sure on when it's going to arrive or how strong it's going to be. I've been focused on Hurricane Irene over here in the United States, but here's Taiwan right here, and it's going to be coming. The eye is basically going to travel right up along the coastline there and then start to swing off, and it's probably going to go right through Okinawa and then on into the islands of Japan and then into the mainland. However, if you live in South Korea, you may be wanting to keep an eye on what's going on in case it changes its directions and course. It may go up that way. Or if you live over here in China area, you may want to keep your eye on that same storm. Then you've got a tropical storm Talis, which is right here, and as you can see, it's actually a whole lot bigger than the super typhoon. But this super typhoon is very powerful. It's got a very well defined eye, and is a very powerful storm that's going to be headed up that way. This one, in the meanwhile, this tropical storm Talis, is going to be headed up toward Japan. So again, you're going to have two different systems headed toward Japan. They may interfere with one another, they may not. We'll have to wait and see. But this super typhoon right here is a very powerful storm, guys. So again, if you live in Japan, in Taiwan and Japan, alert and warning. If you live in China or South Korea, keep your eyes out. Be watchful in case it changes its path. But as of now, it should be passing to the east, just barely to the east of Taiwan, if not a direct hit, and to the east of it, and headed up toward Japan. And this one's already headed up toward Japan. So two powerful systems. We'll come around here real quickly to the US and get this centered back to the north. And here's where you have Hurricane Irene at right now. Okay, she's still pretty powerful. She's now been downgraded to a Category 2 hurricane, which means that the winds have now fallen down to 100 miles per hour. As it gets closer to the land, still, guys, watch it. It'll probably be kicking up to 110, 112 mile an hour winds by the time it actually makes landfall. The rains are now starting to come in, or have been coming into Georgia. I'm sorry, South Carolina and North Carolina. Let's get on in here a little bit. Right along the coastline, as I had mentioned earlier. But as she moves farther and farther north, these big, massive areas of rain are going to come through, starting to saturate the ground before the powerful winds of the eye penetrate the land. So be focused in on it. Be watching it. Again, if you live in that area, take shelter. This evening, it'll be making landfall, or late tomorrow. Here's the other tropical depression that's out there. It's kind of weakened up a little bit, but that's where it's at. It actually really hasn't. This is kind of an older image of it. But there's where she's at. She's been headed she came off right about in here and been heading on a basically west-northwest track. So if it continues at that rate, it'll be headed out to sea. Okay, it'll be headed way out to sea if it continues on the current track, if they don't start manipulating it and causing it to go west. Okay, let's take a look at it from another angle. Okay, right here it is. This is Super Typhoon Nanmando, and then you've got Tropical Storm Talis right here. Okay, this one's headed up past Taiwan and then on into Japan. This one's been headed directly toward Japan. So two storms headed toward Japan. Yeah, so take a warning and alert if you live in Taiwan, or if you live in Japan, and then just take a warning, a watch, if you live in South Korea or China. As far as Hurricane Irene, she's been barreling down. She's sitting basically due west of Georgia and the very southern tip of South Carolina. And again, the clouds and the wind have already begun to penetrate South Carolina and North Carolina, as well as parts of Virginia. And here is Tropical Depression number 10 sitting out here. Again, it's not all that defined. Here it is, falling apart. Here it is, strengthening. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on it. But as I've said, it's kind of taking a west northwesterly track. It comes off right here, and then it ends up way up here. Okay, so west would be right here. West would be way down here. Okay, because this is, you got to understand, you're looking at directly down from the North Pole, so west would actually be right here. Okay, so it's been tracking west northwest. Okay, same thing right here. You know, where this is actually at is way down here. You got to look at it in a circle. Okay, that's the way it is. Japan is actually right here. You follow the circle around. Okay, you got to follow the loop. I know that the image is a little tricky, but once you get used to looking at it, you've got your counterclockwise, which is hurricane structure or low pressure system structure on your north and south pole, and then you've got your clockwise rotation on your equator, around the equator. Okay, that'll help you to understand. If when you're looking at the clockwise rotation, you know you're looking basically at the equator or the equator of the globe. Okay, the clockwise rotation is basically the equator. Okay, so that'll help you to understand what you're looking at. Okay guys, so there it is, Super Typhoon Nanmadol, and you've got Tropical Storm Talis, you've got Hurricane Irene over here in the Atlantic, and you've got Tropical Depression number 10 in that has now turned the limb, and again it's headed west northwest. Okay, a totally different track than what Irene take. It's much higher than Irene already as far as from the equator north. Okay, so unless something dramatically changes, this one will probably just go off this direction and then eventually just circle back out. Probably won't make landfall anywhere. Nevertheless, we know that they can manipulate the weather, so we're just keeping an eye on it just to make sure. But that one should be not too big of a concern. But again, we will keep our eye on it and see if things change. Okay, guys, I'm going to get off here. I love you guys. Get in the Word, stay in the Word. And keep in mind that as Hurricane Irene treks north, that there are biological plants and other hazards that it's going to be running into besides nuclear power plants. You can have a zombie effect if we're not careful, okay, with the different agents that are going to be distilled into the air as it takes out these facilities. So just keep all this stuff in mind, guys, that this is not your normal everyday storm. Okay, it's only a Category 2, and it probably won't make it to Category 3 before it makes landfall, but it's a huge storm, guys. It takes up a very broad area. And the rain is going to be the main situation. Rain, tornadoes, hail, thunderstorms, flooding rains, and wind damage if you're near the eye. Okay, guys, I'll get off here. Love you guys.